So now we're at this point where we're ready to actually start selling and actually talking about a specific piece of gear or whatever the customer might be wanting. And it's really easy to just get really excited and start suggesting things and start talking about things. But you still really kind of want to figure out a few things. So you've narrowed down that, are they buying their third pair of shoes, or is this their first shoe, or is it their second harness? Ask them some other questions like, what shoe did you have before, or what size do you wear? What did you like or dislike about that product? And in your head, you haven't really suggested anything yet, but what you're doing is you're starting to narrow down some things for them. And, you're really creating this idea of what I'm going to sell to them here in the next few moments. So you really want to know your inventory before you really even start suggesting something. One of the worst things you can really do is start suggesting a shoe, and you start talking about, this is blah 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 shoe, and it's got this, and it'll be really good, and they're like, yeah, let me try that one on. Okay, cool. What size are you? And then you walk into the back, and we don't have their size. Don't confuse that with we only want to sell what we have. That's not the case. We always want to make sure we sell the customer what it is they need and what they want. But we try to have a pretty good inventory of stuff here, so there should always be a few shoes that'll work for that customer. So, like I said, ask those questions that we talked about earlier, narrow it down in your head. Hey, what size are you? And go to the back and bring out a few shoes for them to try on. All right, so we've asked them all these questions. We know kind of what shoe we're going to sell them. We know what size they are, and we walk back into the back, and it's amazing. We have every shoe that we carry in their size. And the one thing you really don't want to do is bring out all those shoes. You're just going to overwhelm the customer. They came to us, they're asking us questions because they want us to help them make a choice. You asked all these questions earlier to kind of narrow it down for them. So, do that. Narrow it down to 2 or 3 shoes. 2 shoes would really be best. 3 shoes would be really the max of what you want to bring out. And bring them out, explain to them the differences of those shoes, why one might be better or the other. Realistically, maybe it's 3 different brands, and it's really just more about what all 3 of those shoes are going to work for them, but it's which one's going to fit them better for their shape of foot. If you bring out 9 pairs of shoes, all you're really going to do is overwhelm them. They're not going to know what to do. It's too many choices, and they're going to leave feeling like they just need to think about it a little bit more. And they came in willing to buy a shoe, and now they're leaving needing to kind of reassess what shoe they want. So narrow it down for them. Help them make that choice. One of the worst things we can do, because we've built this relationship with the customer, we've built this trust, we have this rapport, is realizing that the customer asks you a question and you don't know the answer. Don't ever lie about it. Just don't lie, don't wing it, don't make anything up. Just look at the customer and say, you know what, that's an awesome question. I don't know. But let me go find somebody that does. Let me find the answer for you. And what's really cool about this is that it's actually going to help the customer gain more trust. We're going to win them over even more because we were willing to admit that we didn't have the answer, but we were going to go find out for them. We want to make sure that they have all the answers that they want, that they're satisfied, and we're willing to go and make sure that that customer walks out there with everything that they want. And when you lie, it's just, we're going to lose that trust, and it's going to be even harder to get it back. So just don't do it. Find somebody that knows. If we can't find somebody, look it up. Do whatever it takes to find out for the customer. Just don't ever lie to them. So on the flip side, if we have all this knowledge and we do know all this stuff about a shoe, we really want to give it to them. We've already talked about how we kind of assume, we kind of have this idea that our time is precious. And if the customer is willing to give you that time, and there's a lot of stuff that you can talk to them about, even if you know they're not buying the shoe that day, it's even more important at that point, actually, to give them all this knowledge and to really make them feel, like you want to give them the time and you want to help them out and you want to make sure that they're getting all the right product. Like you can grab a shoe and sit there and say, yeah, this thing, it's made by Italian cobblers and each shoe is handmade and they have to like pre-tension the rubber and they have this like heel cup that does this for your climbing. And the customer might not really care about all these little features, and at the end of the day, that's probably not the reason why they're gonna buy it. They're gonna buy it because you told them it's the right shoe for them. But by talking about all these little features, it kind of like gives you this idea of like, okay, that's what I'm paying for. And that's why it's gonna make me perform better. It's not gonna perform better because this guy told me it will. It's gonna perform better because of all these things, but the guy said that that's the right shoe for me. And so you wanna give them all these things. And especially if they're not buying the shoe that day, it's even more important because they're probably gonna go home, they're gonna do some research. Some customers might even see if what we said was true. And it better be, and hopefully it is, because that's gonna give us even more credibility. And they might go shop at other places. But when they have that paycheck and they have that money that they're ready to spend, they're gonna think, okay, who took the time, who really taught me, and who really suggested the right thing? And if it's us, they're gonna think of us, and they're gonna come back to us. So if a customer is willing to give you the time, just drop as much knowledge on them as possible. Once again, it helps build that rapport and that relationship with the customer. Now we're at this point where, we've brought out shoes, we've talked to the customer, we've made suggestions, the customer's starting to try on shoes, maybe they've climbed in it a few times, and they're debating between some sizes or what shoe is realistically going to be it. At the end of the day, like you can kind of strongly suggest the right shoe or the right size, but we don't really ever want to risk selling them something that they're going to be unhappy with. So if there's ever any doubt or hesitation, we don't really want to push them. We want to give them all the information that they need to make a good choice. But if we push them into something and they get buyer's remorse and it ends up not working for them or it doesn't break in the way that we said it would, they're going to blame us. And we just start to lose their trust and we lose that rapport that we have so hardly worked for and we keep talking about. But if we kind of suggest things and we give them pros and cons and like, well, here's my opinion and maybe here's what I did or I had a customer do, and you kind of give them these stories and all that, but at the end of the day, they're like, okay, yeah, I'll take this size. They've made that decision and the responsibility kind of falls on them. If we suggested the wrong shoe, that's still going to be on us. But if, when it comes to size and stuff like that, that's really going to be on them. I had a customer one time that he was his first aggressive shoe. And I spent about 20, 30 minutes with him. And by the end of the conversation, we had it narrowed down. We knew what shoe he wanted. He knew what shoe he wanted, but he couldn't decide between two shoes or two sizes. And we knew one was really going to stretch, or we knew the whole shoe was really going to stretch, but he just couldn't figure out how much it was going to stretch. And we'll talk about all these variables and stuff like that when we get to shoes. But it ended up with him saying, what would you do? And you can't do that. You can't make the decision for the customer because what I would do is going to be different. Like he feels different things. What's tight is relative. What's tight to him is different to what's tight for me. I told him, I was like, I can't make this decision for you. You have to decide, like, the shoe is going to stretch, but how much, let's say it doesn't stretch enough. This tighter shoe, is it going to stretch enough for you if it doesn't stretch that much? And, I told him, like, he had to make the decision. And he did, and he was happy. Luckily, the shoe stretched out what was right and everything for him. But it's a really good example that, had I suggested the tighter shoe because, yeah, that shoe stretched a lot for me personally, and that shoe did, maybe it wouldn't have stretched as much for him and he could have been really unhappy with it. So you can't make the decision for the customer. The customer has to make the choice. earlier we kind of talked about this idea of how we are a retail shop within a climbing gym. And that's what really makes the after sale like that much cooler, is because we get this really unique chance, an opportunity to see the customer that we sold something to using that product for weeks, months, maybe even a year or two down the road. And we get that feedback and we get to ask them, like, hey, how's that shoe working out for you? And they're like, yeah, it's awesome. I climbed this hard route that I wasn't able to do because I could edge that much better. And it's a thing that like most retailers and other brick and mortar stores, and definitely online stores, they can't do that. They don't get to see their customers using the product right in front of them. And I kind of brought that up as an idea of like, that's why we can be so good at selling climbing gear, because we see that. But that's why we can be so good with customer service and have such good relationship with our members, because we get to experience all aspects of what we provide for them. We're a one-stop shop for everything that they need climbing, unless it's climbing outdoors. Obviously, we don't have that. But most of our members climb here in our gyms. They buy gear from us. We get to see it. They do yoga with us. They get to do fitness. So it's really important that you follow up with that customer, make sure they're happy with it, and just keep up that rapport, that background, just that relationship that we have with the customer. Just keep maintaining it, because it's really important.